Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GTE build. Well, this week I wasn't really looking forward to this part of the project, suspension. Suspension are tough. They're tough at the best of times because they're tough to get off, and then of course we've had 26 to 28 degrees weather to go with that, and we were stripping the old and putting on some new. Fortunately, we were fitting some new H&R springs, which actually arrived this week, which is brilliant. I'm really pleased that it did. However, this was not going to be a walk in the park. The backs, no problems. I think the backs would be very easy to do, but the fronts, they're going to be very challenging because of the way that you've got to take them off. Fortunately, we've got one suspension off already, and our new suspension have arrived, or our shock absorbers. So if you recall, I ordered some purchased some shocks that were from a Golf R, and they fitted perfectly, or they arrived in a good state. You'll see those in a second. So now we've got to strip off the springs to get the top mounts off the old suspension, because we're going to be able to reuse that as long as it's not damaged. Let's take a look. Right, so on this desk here we have a bit of a spring fest, or shocks fest I should say. So these two, as you probably gathered, are shocks that we're going to be fitting. These are from a Golf R of the same year and the same model, so it's a Mark 7.5 Golf, and these standard equipment are sack suspension, which is really good. Here's the old one, and I've braced it up to take the springs off, and here are our new springs. Now let's take a look at our new springs compared to the springs that are fitted on these coilovers, and you can probably tell, yeah, I'm more comfortable fitting these H&R springs because they are for this car, they are for this model of vehicle. These springs, you can see, are quite short, and that's going to really generate quite a hard ride. Not to say these won't, but these are more near the OEM springs fitted to the S3. So the S3, the OEM springs are actually EBAC springs. That's what's fitted to the S3 and the RS3, I believe. But obviously here we're using H&Rs, so you can see just the total difference and the comfort that's going to give. You've got a much shorter throw in terms of, let's move that spring out of the way. If you look at the actual shock here, that's the throw, that's the length of travel that it has. Here's the standard shock. You can see that there's a lot more travel here, hence the reason why these are going to be more comfortable than these. Not to diss these springs, because these springs are okay, but for this particular application I think we're going to go with the OEM from the Golf R, and we're going to fit these springs. Okay, so first thing we need this topper here, so we're going to take that off. We'll do the springs first, and then we'll compare the standard springs on the Golf GTE to the H&R springs. Okay, so first of all, look at the height difference in those springs. Incredible. That is incredible. That's the first thing. Second, here's the shock, and you can just about tell there's a bend there, but then there's also a bend at the top there. Can you see that? So it's actually bent in two places. That's, yeah, incredible. Right, okay, so let's get our spring on this one and get it loaded up. I'm not sure if I'm going to need the braces to put these springs on, but we'll soon find out. Well, that was fairly easy, and it looks good too. So we can now get this back in the car. Right, all our components are here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hang the suspension. We'll then get it into its socket. We'll fit the drive shaft in. Well, actually, we'll probably have to fit the drive shaft in first. Either way, we've got to hang the suspension, so we'll do that first, and then we'll see how we go. Right, suspension is in and locked and loaded, tight at the top as well. We just got to put this dry shaft in now. Hopefully that will go in easy. I've taken the hub off, so it's no longer on the lower wishbone, so it should just hopefully be a case of just sliding in. Wishful thinking, eh? Let's see how we get on. So, you know when you shouldn't say something, but you say it anyway, and then you regret what you said? Well, I did exactly that in the next scene and have regretted it since. Listen to what I say. Do you know what? That went on remarkably easy. Okay, let's get the wheel on and let's get the other side off. Hopefully the other side will come off as easy as this went on. No, it didn't. That looks much better, nice and clean, everything's nice and tight, and everything just went on just really easy, including the wishbone. The wishbone was a nightmare to get on last time, that's why I never filmed it this time, but you've seen me do these before, but this time it just went on like a glove. Right, let's put the wheel on and then let's get the other side stripped. So the second shock was a complete nightmare to get off. It was stuck so tight, tighter than a tight thing. And even with the little spreader tool that I had, it just wasn't budging. It was just moving really, really slow. And I covered it with lube, which is difficult because you can't get the lube inside in the middle, but kind of psychologically you tell yourself that it's going to work. It didn't. And then it just, like I said, it took me over an hour and a half in the baking sun to get this off. Eventually it came off, as you see in the next scene, but by then I was absolutely shattered. Right, second shock is now off. This was a nightmare to get off, really took a while. It was properly wedged in, but after some gentle persuasion it finally came out. Right, we've got to strip this one because we need the top, and then we can dress this one with a new spring and then get that fitted to the car, and then that will be the front done and just the back to do. Okay, nice and dressed. So I'm hoping that this one is going to go on as easy as the first one did. It didn't. Let's go. It's really hot out there and there's a lot of flying ants as well. Not that that bothers me, they just keep getting in your face. Alright, let's get this on. Right, so first thing we're going to do is hang the suspension, because that seemed to work pretty well, that method. And I sprayed inside the hub carrier, because that helped immensely when I did it last time. So we'll do that again. Okay, let's get the suspension hung. Now at the point that you see me just stop the video, I went on for another 45 minutes trying to get that drive shaft into the hub, and I just failed miserably. And by then it was late, and I was absolutely exhausted because I've been out in the sun a good solid 4 hours now in 28 degrees of heat, and it was just absolutely draining. So I just cut my losses, decided to do it the next day. Right, it is the next day. I have a bit of a problem. Well, it's not a problem, it's more of a self-inflicted issue. So the standard procedure for replacing the shocks is that you take the drive shaft out of the socket, and then you put the drive shaft back after you attach everything. I'm doing it the hard way, and the hard way is where you take the drive shaft off this end here and you try and get the splines in. So down the middle here there are some splines, and of course at the end of the drive shaft there are splines on there. You've got to try and match them up by spinning the wheel, but that's proven to be quite problematic, because when you do it this way, the drive shaft is heavy, this is heavy, you've got to jack it up, which is what I'm trying to do, and then turn that and have enough turn to be able to get the spline in. I know I'm kind of making this sound more complicated than it is, but the easiest way is to actually drop the drive shaft from that end, so get it basic, and then basically bolt it up. But fortunately the GTE has a different setup than normal Golfs, and what that is, it's got a spline drive shaft on the other end as well, and it's a heavy shaft as well. And the reason why it's heavy is because of the torque that goes through this thing, because of the electric motor. So it's got to be a stronger drive shaft, so it ain't the normal drive shaft that you would normally have. So with it being heavy, and I'm waffling now, so I'm going to stop, but it's heavy and it's tough, so I'm going to try and do this again. I gave up last night because it was just too much and it was too hot, and it's hot again today. Anyway, let's give it another go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got this done. So a tip, if you're ever doing it on one of these cars, or maybe even a GTI, jack up the steering arm, because then the whole thing maneuvers. So basically this arm maneuvers, and then you can get that center bolt in, which is what I did. Once I jacked this up, it literally took 30 seconds to get it in. It was slid straight in, and we were able to tighten it. Oh, right. Okay, let's get the rest of the arms just all done up, and then let's look at the back. Let's get the back sorted. Okay, let's get this wheel back on, and then we can focus on the back. Right, back suspension time. So this should be easier. So to get the spring out, what we have to do is drop 3 bolts. So one for the shock, one for the hub, and then one for the anti-roll bar, which is just spider in my face, just over there. Okay, so once we get that, what we'll do, we'll then use our jack to hold this up before we undo this final bolt here, and then we'll drop it down, pull the spring out, swap it out. Should be that simple, but you know we're gonna have problems. Let's go. And there you go, suspension is out. That didn't take too long at all. You can tell the difference. So that's the difference. It's not much, but the main difference is how these springs are caught at the top here. You can see these three are tight, whereas here you've got this uniform spring that goes throughout. Whereas this one here, you got tight at the top and then it springs out. So here's your bounce down here, and of course here you've got a much more tighter core. So this is the top and there's the bottom. So we'll get this one back in and we'll see how we go. Okay, done. Now that took me the best part of 15 minutes to do. Really easy the backs, very tough the fronts. Well, particularly on the GTE. Right, so you can see the spring is sitting in place, nicely located in the bottom as well, and everything is back. And I've torqued it up off the camera. So let's put the wheel back on and then we'll finish off with the other side. Okay, so I did that side. Like I said, it took me about 15 minutes. Now I went on to do the other side. I didn't show it on camera because it's just a repeat of the first side. But that actually took me about 7 minutes to do because I'd obviously had that wishbone off when I replaced it because the other one was crushed. So it took me literally 7 minutes to do, in and out. It was pure Formula One style. And then I took the car for a test drive and oh my goodness, it was like a different car. It felt absolutely brilliant. It was perfect. The steering, the stance. Whoa, that car is low. Yes, it is. But it was nice and low. It drove just like the S3. It really did. Took it for a little bit of a run through Bournemouth, and compared to the drive that I had before where it was all bouncy and all over the place, these H&R springs made a massive difference to the handling of the GTE. It handles like a GTI now, and it is the perfect ride height, because don't forget the GTE is heavier. It's about 200 kilos heavier than the standard GTI and Golf R. So these springs probably are lower than what they would have done had they been fitted into the into a GTI or a Golf R. Overspeed ramped, absolutely fine. Does bottom out, but only if you're really pushing the car, which I was earlier on, because I had another car that happened to want to pass me, and I decided to test the power. And it does go. So on that basis, it bottomed out, but literally it just bottomed. You can hear the tires just hitting, because the tires of my car are sitting quite wide out. So as a reminder, this is what the car looked like before we did any work on it, with its standard springs sitting with these new wheels on there, as you can see, pretty high. And this is what it looks like now. I'm sure you agree, it is a completely, it looks much better, and I just love those wheels. And I know for some of you, you prefer the originals, but I just love those spoke style wheels. I think they really set the car off, being white and then the wheels being black as well. So that is it for this week. Next week we are looking at tuning. So I'm going to tell you about a dark secret that all Golf GTEs have. You might be very interested to hear about this. It's all to do with politics, but that's next week's episode. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe down here, click on the bell notification so that you will be notified whenever we release a bell. And if you are not a subscriber, click on the subscribe button. That's it, do it, be a subscriber. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on the next one.